Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salam, rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to welcome to our program here at Sharjah Broadcasting Authority. On Paradise and Hell, in this series, we've been talking about the hellfire in the Day of Judgment and the things and actions that people are doing today, which are the habits of the people of hellfire. None of us can say, well, you're going to go to hell. We cannot command anyone to hell. Allah is the one who judges. And may Allah protect us and have mercy on us and keep us from among those who go to hellfire, and also may we be inspired to continue to do the actions of those people who Allah is most pleased with and refrain from those actions who Allah will punish. So we ask Allah to help us stay on this path and for our feet to be steady and firm. And in Surah number 2, this is Surah Surah Al-Baqarah, number 2, verse number 161 to 162. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Verily those who reject faith and die rejecting, on them is Allah's curse, and the curse of the angels of all mankind. They will abide therein, and their penalty will not be lightened, nor will respite be their lot. And Bukhari narrates from Umar that the Prophet ﷺ said, the people of paradise will enter paradise, and the people of hell will enter hell. Then the caller will stand between the two and proclaim, O people of hell, there is no death. O people of paradise, there is no death. It is eternal. And Muslim reports by Abu Sa'id who said, the Prophet ﷺ said, death will be brought like a horned ram and will be made to stand between paradise and hell. It will be said, O people of paradise, do you know what this is? They will raise their heads and look and will say, yes, this is death. It will say, O people of hell, do you know what this is? They will raise their heads and look up and will say, yes, this is death. Then the command will be given for death to be slaughtered. Then it will be said, O people of paradise, is eternal. There is no death. O people of hell, it is eternal. There is no death. And then the Prophet ﷺ recited this verse from chapter 19, verse 39. This is Surah Miriam, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and warned them of the day of grief and regrets, when the case has been decided, while now they are in a state of carelessness, and they believe not. Now, this state is a state that, many people are in now, today. Carelessness. And I keep repeating this. Why I'm repeating it? Because it's not that people will get it. Allah knows best who will get it, who won't get it. But for me personally, I would say this is very disheartening for a person who lived many years as a non-Muslim, who lived in darkness, to see Muslims, first of all, Muslims and Christians who came from families who were trying to their best to practice and believe in God and to worship according to what they understood was right, and Jews who claim that they were following the Torah, who were following the footsteps of Moses alayhi salam, who there's no prophet in the Quran who's talked more about than Moses alayhi salam. Okay, and to see the distortion in this, it's very painful for me. In distortion, I mean that people who are just following their own desires and become blinded that there's accountability, that they will not have to face accountability for their actions. And nowadays, in social media, we find so many people who come out, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them, because of their inner feelings about acts that they've committed or acts that they've seen or acts which are committed by their people, meaning their people, their nations, their tribes, And they describe my nation or my people are saying that they are doing this for this particular reason, but it isn't the things which they're doing are totally in conflict with what the prophets of Allah brought. And it's very interesting today because there are many people who feel this is, for example, I am a person who believes in God. I fear God and within the context of what my belief system is. And I see people who claim that they're following this belief system and they're justifying actions which are clearly the actions of people of hellfire. But they justify them based on the political situation or economic situation or whatever terminology that they want to use to protect themselves supposedly in their actions. The justification for the propagation of evil, for lack of a better description. And there are tens of thousands of people today who are doing this globally. And they feel comfortable in their justifications. But there's a very interesting analogy that psychiatrists and social scientists say about murderers, serial killers, that in their minds, they've justified their actions. A serial killer, a murderer, someone who goes out and kills children, as an example, in a school, in his mind before he's done that, he's justified this action. So he feels that he's on a mission for whatever form that mission may take. So similarly, people who are committing crimes in the name of a particular belief system, which has become corrupted, which is nowhere near what has been revealed, but they justify it based on their own desires and their own whims and themselves wanting to be at the top of the food chain, basically, and them justifying that someone has to be at the top, someone has to be at the bottom. I have the capability to be at the top. Shame on the people at the bottom. They themselves have been fooled by Shaitan because they don't realize that whatever has been facilitated for them to be in the position that they are in can be one of two things for them. It can be a benefit or it can be a loss, depending upon how they see it. And this has been entrusted to, and that also with knowledge, with wealth, both. So if a person takes his wealth and his knowledge and puts those two things together to exploit other people, what does that make him? And he has the capability to justify his actions in front of the world. What positions does that put him in when he comes before Allah? So this is something that everyone has to be very careful about. Oftentimes in discussions, all of us have discussions, people are pointing the finger generally at leaders, corporate organization, so forth and so forth, this organization, that organization, this person, that person, and the people are not doing this. And what we've been told, Allah will not change the condition of people until they change what is in their hearts. So we ask ourselves, where do I stand today in this relationship? If I'm a person who's being oppressed, for example, and I begin to look at the source of that oppression, what is it that I can do, or what is it that I should be doing with my people to help relieve them of this oppression? What is the real solution? What is the real equation that will lead to relief from oppression, as an example? Or have I become corrupted and so corrupted in my ways that what I think is justifiable is actually a path leading me to hellfire? And there are tens of thousands of people who are not paying attention to this. And their mindset is, well, somebody has to go to hell, somebody has to go to paradise. So, those people that don't want to comply, it's on them. They're not thinking about you are not complying. You are not obeying the commandments of Allah. You are justifying your actions based on your nafs, your desires to be superior. And what does this go back to? It goes back to Satan and the creation of Adam. When he says, I am better than you, I am better than you because I'm made from fire, you emerged from earth, I am superior to you. So it is the same mentality. I am superior to you. Know who I am? I am someone of status. The question you have to ask yourself, do you have status before Allah? Allah is the one who elevates, Allah is the one who degrades. Can you guarantee before your death that Allah will elevate you? Do you have the actions of the people of hellfire or the actions of the people of paradise? It is easy for Allah. But which habits do you have? Which are you pursuing? Do you know the difference? Have you accepted the difference? Or have you justified in your mind because of your condition that I'm allowed to do this because of my condition, not thinking that you are not allowed to do it. You are giving free will to do it, but you are not allowed to do this in the sense that this is something that Allah will not accept. And it is easy to be in denial about this, to justify your actions, but you will account. No one will escape. So that reality is something that we're all faced with, and we should be very, very careful about. We should be worried about that. We should be worried about being, not so much being oppressed as we're worrying about being the oppressor. The oppressed, when I say one of the things of the oppressed, the dua, the prayer of the oppressed goes straight to Allah without veil. So the oppression becomes a means of forgiveness of sins for a believer. Not that we want to be oppressed, but I'm saying if we understand it and put it in the proper context, in this context, it can be a benefit for us. But the person who is the oppressor, how would he come before Allah? How would he justify his deeds, his actions? How will he attempt to do that? He will not be able to. So his life will end in what? In the fire. SubhanAllah. Again in Surah Baqarah, Surah number 2, verse number 221, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And do not marry unbelieving, literally polytheist women until they believe. A slave woman who believes is better than a free, unbelieving woman, even though she allures you. Nor marry your girls to unbelievers until they believe. A man slave who believes is better than a free unbeliever, even though he allures you. Those unbelievers do but beckon you to the fire. But Allah invites by His grace to the garden of bliss and forgiveness and makes His signs clear to mankind that they may receive admonition. Well, this is very clear that believers are not to marry non-believers. You can't marry someone who's inviting you to idolatry, as an example, to behavior that is disobedience to Allah. Because that person, whether it's male or female, will be a means of reorientating you away from the belief in Allah and compromising your belief system and inclining you towards others things and justifying these efforts. In Surah Al-Ghafir, Surah number 40, verse number 70 76, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Those who reject the book and the revelations with which we sent our messengers, but soon shall they know. When the yoke shall be around their necks and the chains, they shall be dragged along. In the boiling fetid fluid, then in the fire shall they be burned. Then shall it be said to them, where are the deities to which you gave part worship? In derogation of Allah, they will reply, they have left us in the lurch. Nay, we invoked them not of old anything that had real existence. Thus does Allah leave the unbelievers to stray. That was because you were wont to rejoice on the earth in things other than the truth, and that you were wont to be ignorant, into the gates of hell to dwell there, and evil is this abode of the arrogant. It's Allah Akbar. This for the people who, the idol worshippers, of which we have millions in the world. It gives us no pleasure to read these verses and ayahs, and actually it's very painful. I've seen people make arguments against each other, and they verbally and call each other names. This is not our intention. And personally, I don't have any interest in this. But my concern is for the people who themselves find themselves believing these things, that they're okay, that they're all right. No, you're not. And so Surah, Surah number 26, verse number 94 and 98. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Then they will be thrown headlong into the fire, they and those straying in evil, and the whole host of Iblis, meaning Satan, together. They will say there in their mutual bickerings, by Allah, we were truly in an error manifest when we held you, meaning the false gods, as equal with the Lord of the worlds. Astaghfirullah, it's very painful for me personally, and I keep saying this, to look, and now we're seeing evidence, alhamdulillah, of people who are idol worshippers now due to the suffering from the pandemic. They're destroying their idols because they're putting their faith in these idols. We see them, throwing the idols away, throwing them into the rivers and these kind of things, because they realize now that this thing cannot help them. They're doing their prayers and whatever they've been told to do in relationship to these things, and there's no change. There's no benefit from it. So many of the people, they're waking up to this. My question is, from our dear viewing audience, and my suggestion and conclusion is that everyone who is viewing these programs, who is among the believers, that today, not tomorrow, that today you seek to find someone who is still in disbelief and to invite them to Islam and to show them the condition that they're in if they're worshiping something other than the one only God. And you don't have to be a very learned person. We're just inviting the people to La ilaha illallah. There's no God but Allah. And if you feel that you can't do it, make the intention to do it and get someone else. Find that person who you feel needs to know about Allah, and find someone who can talk to them. So please make this intention, everyone, today. And I make the intention myself today, along with you. And hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept it, and by our efforts, somebody will be guided to Islam. And we've seen this on many occasions, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide those people who are in disbelief to the truth for their own salvation, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all the believers and have mercy on them, and help them, or make it easy for them to keep their feet steady on this path, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. Well, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of our believing viewers, inshallah, and their families until the day of judgment. My name is Tara Khalid. I'd like to thank you for joining us here at Sharjah Broadcasting Authority on Paradise and Hell here in Sharjah, the UAE. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.